It is one of the highest rated shows on TV at the moment, and tonight we're anxiously awaiting the season 5 finale. Today I'm joined by Andrew Lincoln, who plays Rick, and special effects makeup designer and director Greg Nicotero. Welcome, guys. It's an absolute pleasure to have you both. Season 5 has been just incredible from start to finish. I haven't seen the finish yet, but I can imagine it's going to be amazing. Even watching it, it feels like a completely different to all the other seasons. Working on it for you both, how has it been different from all the previous seasons?
I was a lot busier than last season. Scott Gimple, the showrunner, I remember when I went into the writer's room before we started shooting season 5, and he said, "We're going to lean on you a little bit this season, Andy." And I said, "Oh, what does that mean?" He said, "You're not going to get any time off." So, you know, I loved being on set. I loved being around the show and being present on set. And, you know, I think he and the writers' room and Greg and the directorial team have been amazing at telling this very detailed, very complicated story. And you kind of think, well, now we can say something a little bit more complicated. Now that we're sort of not just dealing with the trauma of death and loss and survival, we're starting to tell a story about what it is to rebuild.
Yeah.
And I think that that is a very, very sort of psychologically and sociologically interesting place where you can maybe say something about what's happening in the world now, a bit more about, you know, there's foreign policy, there's domestic policy. You look at what we're trying to say about, I mean, Rick is a pretty uncompromising militant man at the moment because of what's happened to him. He's had to be.
For me, when we started cutting the episode, the script was dense. I mean, Scott's scripts are fantastic because he really wants to pay tribute to every storyline and every character. So before we even started filming, there was only one scene that we ended up having to remove due to just time constraints, which was one with Carl and Enid.
Yeah.
It's a fantastic scene. We were really disappointed. Doesn't mean it won't come back in another episode, but so I started editing the episode and I realized just right out of the gate that we had a lot of story to tell. And I went to Scott and said, I'm going to cut the episode that I think we need to air. And if we have to then go back and cut it down because the network says we can't for some reason, and they saw it, everyone saw it and went, why would we do that? And what's interesting, and a lot of the actors that have seen it so far have said to me, what you don't realize is when you do an hour episode, there's little tiny nuances that you really love, like just scenes being able to breathe that get trimmed out. And it's only a factor of time. Like in episode 12, when they arrive at Alexandria, there was a sequence we shot where Rick's walking through the town and he sees Abraham going to work, and he sees Rosita going to work, and he sees Eugene at work. So it's sort of setting up that, okay, everyone's going to work and they all have their place there.
Yeah.
And that scene got trimmed because of time. But what's beautiful about the finale is we let those scenes play. So you actually have a little bit of breathing room, which allows the tension and the suspense to build.
Everybody has integrated to a degree, apart from, you know, Rick and Carol. They're the ones that are stepping back, waiting, because they've had to be on high alert. You know, Carol says the one, you know, you were wrong, but you were right, just before they enter Alexandria, when he's been so hardline about Aaron, you know, distrustful. And I think that they're both still on high alert, and they have to be, and they've had to be for the sake of the group. And I feel that with Rick and Carol, it's almost like they're waiting for everybody else to catch up. She's a very complicated cat, and you know, and their relationship is a completely different thing, and it's almost like Othello and Iago. And I love scenes with that, with Melissa. She's just an alien actress. She's one of those extraordinary talents, and you know, every scene with her is just fun because you don't know what she's going to give, and you don't know how that you're going to respond. It's great fun.
Carol has scared me sometimes this
season. She scares us.
She does.
It's pretty terrifying now.
It's fascinating because of, and I love the transition when she realizes that Pete is abusing Sam and Jesse. I love the transition because when you see her initially at Alexandria and she's sort of playing the Susie homemaker, and she's like, I'm off to make the casseroles, and you're like, what is going on? And even one of my favorite scenes that I shot was when she leaves the house and Daryl looks at her in the outfit,
And does he say you look ridiculous?
You look ridiculous, which was an ad lib, which was an ad lib that Norman did, and we laughed so much.
I was there, wasn't I? I was going, this is the greatest, because we were so traumatized doing that episode because it was so weird, so uncomfortable. And then I saw that scene, and we were bent double laughing, going, "This is amazing."
Just seeing her wearing that sweater, she walked out, and we all just went, What are you doing? What is happening? So we all had that exact same reaction. So we immediately started filming, and Norman's reaction of like, "You look ridiculous," and he yells it over his shoulder. And I think she even said, "Thank you," and then kept going.
Yeah. Greg, you recently said that, if this season 5 doesn't get an award or get an Emmy award, it's outrageous.
What's strange about it is that people sometimes just label our show. They don't realize the depth of the storytelling, the depth of the performances. We really feel that emotionally we take our viewers on a journey. It's not just about the spectacle of killing zombies, it's about what would you do if you were in that position? And I think the success of the show hinges completely on that. People recognize and identify with each of the characters. Somebody wants to be Rick, somebody wants to be Daryl, somebody wants to be Glenn, somebody wants to be Maggie, somebody wants to be Beth. They identify with the human emotion. And I really feel strongly that we have had episodes. The first episode alone started with this giant spectacle of escaping from Terminus, the suspenseful moment at the trough, and then you get to the reunion of Carol and the reunion with Judith. There's so many emotions that you feel. I've watched episodes that I've directed and I get emotional. The episode with Tyrese, where Chad basically has a rebuttal. It's the denial of whether or not he can survive in this world or not. And at the end, the last shot where you see them open the car door and they bring Tyrese's body out of the car, I cry every time I watch that, and that doesn't happen on. That doesn't happen when you watch television. So, to me, I feel like we have continued to up the dramatic aspect of the show every season, and I think this season we've really just gone into the stratosphere. So, it's my hopes that people are able to sit back and watch the show and appreciate it for those aspects of it, because it's a genre show. So, as a genre show, people tend to sometimes go, "Oh, well, it's violent and gory," but that's 10% of the 100% of the fantastic performances and the great writing and the great storytelling.
Well, it's been lovely having you both. Thank you for talking to me.
Thank you.
Pleasure.